Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Teknoparrot series, the Port Authority, where I weigh every single version of a game I can possibly find against its arcade counterpart to tell you which one is better, which one you should be playing. And today's probably the hardest Port Authority ever. We're weighing OutRun 2 against OutRun 2 against OutRun 2006 against every version of OutRun named out there. Because trust me, the release history of OutRun 2 is absolutely confusing, and even a fan like me has to look up exactly what version is which. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, down below hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But I will still say to this day that OutRun 2 and OutRun 2006 is the greatest arcade game ever made. It is pure perfection. If you don't like it, that's totally fine, but anyone who says it's not a good game in the comments is just here for the troll, because this is widely considered by me included to be the best arcade racing game ever to exist. But the real question is, what is the best version of the best arcade racing game ever to exist that you should play? And you notice I did just change sources there. We went from OutRun 2 SP SDX to OutRun 2006 on PC. And when I said the naming conventions get weird, I 100% mean it. So what we're doing right now is we're playing the PC version of the game, modified with some recent patches I did a video on about 4 or 5 months ago. I will leave a link in the description below. This kind of modernized the game, got it running on a lot more PCs, and made it a very good version of the game to play. And I apologize in advance, but I'm just going to tell you right now, I have kicked out the PlayStation 2 and PSP versions of this game as not being the best way to play. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form they are not incredible ports. I'm just saying they did not make this video because it wouldn't be what I recommend. Now moving back over to the Sega Lindberg arcade footage here, I did leave a label at the bottom so you know what you're watching because they are incredibly close. This version of the game is an expanded and rebuilt version compared to the Chihiro hardware that it originally released on. This is probably one of my favorite ways to play the game, but the question is it the best way to play the game? I would say graphically this probably punches right around the same space as the PC release does. Now of course you do have to use something like Teknoparrot to run this or have original Lindberg hardware, and it definitely shines if you bring an arcade racing wheel to your PC or to the setup, and that is how I'm playing both of these games right now. And honestly, this is sheer perfection. The frame rate, the graphical effects, the sense of fluidity, the controls, the physics, there's absolutely nothing I can say about OutRun 2 on the Lindberg that I would mark as a demerit. This thing is just from start to finish 10 minutes of absolute sheer arcade racing perfection. But if you can't tell already, we've switched back to the PC version of the game as well. It has that same fluidity, it has the same sense of motion. I would say that the graphical effects don't pop as much. There's something about the vibrancy in the colors that is slightly subdued here on the PC version of the game compared to the Lindberg, but we're talking percentages, maybe 1 to 2 difference here, and that really is why this is the hardest Port Authority to ever talk about, because the arcade version of the game is probably slightly prettier and probably runs a tiny bit better, but the PC version of the game is going to bring more options and more ability to kind of adjust it to your liking, but it does require patches, so really we're already off the track for Port Authority here, because if we talked about the release version on PC that you could get on a disc, the arcade version would definitely win hands down. But we're giving OutRun every single advantage we can here. Moving back over to the Lindberg, again you will see that this game is drawing in widescreen, but it is still laying up the heads-up display in 4:3. That is because this can internally render pretty much any resolution you give it in any aspect ratio, but when it was set up, it seems like they put the HUD in 4:3, at least in this version, so that is something that you can slightly notice that is a difference. And honestly, if that's the biggest difference so far, we really are splitting hairs in the overall comparison. This is becoming an incredibly tight race, pun very much intended, as to which version of OutRun 2 you should be playing. But as we move through the Lindberg version again here, I would say that there's something about the graphical quality of this that takes the lead versus the actual PC release. And again, the PC release does need a lot of patching and a little bit more experience, because as we move over, you're going to see that that skybox is ever so slightly less vibrant. Now, of course, this game does need to accommodate more than one type of GPU. You could have an AMD, you could have an NVIDIA card in there, where the arcade version is locked to one specific type of card, and it would be developed for that one specific type of card. So it's possible to say that the developer's intent, at least for the enhanced version of OutRun 2 SP SDX, was this was actually the version you should be playing, not the PC port, because it does have alterations and changes. And again, that is a very minor thing. The skybox here being a little less intense is not something that's going to make or break your fun. But as far as the music is concerned, it's identical across the board, and it's some of the best music ever put to an arcade game. 45 seconds and I'll be right back. Maybe one of the best tracks ever set to an arcade racing game. But as we come back over to the PC version, now we get to talk about the delineating feature set. OutRun 2006, especially on PC, is going to have more modes and more features than the arcade original. So if you are here for the content, that is definitely going to be a plus. And now with all of the patches and modifiers to make this game run on modern systems, it's going to be much easier for you to play too. But the question is, are you here for OutRun 2 for all of those additional modes, or are you here just to absolutely drift the ever-loving shit out of your vehicle, trying to get to the goal before the time runs out? That really is the question you need to answer, because this on PC looks spectacular and plays incredibly with a perfect frame rate. And as we move through the jungle here, this is where we're getting into the honorary mention of the Xbox version of the game, because I would say that definitely runs a third place finish as far as all of the different versions are concerned, but it really isn't a very close race because the Lindberg version and the PC version absolutely beat the Xbox version any day of the week. And again, this is not me saying that those versions are bad. Obviously the Xbox, the PSP, and the PlayStation 2 could never keep up with PCs of the era or arcade boards of the era. They were home consoles, they never had the chance to be able to actually have the hardware that would be needed to replicate what you're seeing on screen now. But I do want to talk about them because honestly the first way I ever played 2006 in my house was on the Xbox. So moving over to that here, you can see it is an incredibly pretty version of the game. By default it is 4:3, and because that is how it was presented when it came home, that is how I'm keeping it here. You can extend it with some modifications though in the background. This is probably the best home console way to play the game. Obviously the best way to play in your home being PC, and the best way to play in arcades is SP SDX, but those cabinets are incredibly rare these days. They had an entire motion sim basically stuck in them, so good luck finding one of those. If you know where one of the big cabinets is, leave me a comment down below. But you gotta hand it to Microsoft and the people that ported it over, Sumo Digital. The Xbox definitely kept up the best it could, and that definitely wins the home console version of Port Authority here. But let's do a side-by-side comparison of the two games, Lindberg versus PC. We have Lindberg on the top and PC on the bottom. That way you can see them run side by side, or in this instance top and bottom. And one more soundtrack sample, because again it's perfection. Just such great music in this game, and this head-to-head comparison right here, you would be extremely hard pressed to tell which version of the game you were looking at. The Lindberg has a little bit more graphical fidelity, but the PC version of the game is keeping up so incredibly well. As we move back over to the PC version of the game in the Milky Way Galaxy level here, I would say that this is basically an impossible task to try to answer for you. You need to decide what you want out of OutRun 2. Do you want the arcade original mode with the SP mode included, with the best possible performance and the best graphics you can get your hands on that can be played on modern PCs today with a wheel and with a controller? Or do you want a PC version of the game that has a slight graphical downgrade but still runs extremely well, that has a ton more modes inside of it than the arcade version SP SDX is going to offer? That is a question you're going to have to answer for yourself. You need to decide what you want out of the game and what you're looking for. The best possible looking OutRun 2 arcade experience with SP included, or the arcade experience and SP included with more modes but a slight graphical downgrade and a little less color vibrancy. For me, I have to say the number one thing about OutRun 2 and SP that I love is the arcade mode. This is 5 to 6 minutes of some of the best video gaming you can possibly get in, whether you're on a home console or an arcade board or emulating it. So for me, the winner here, and we're talking about a photo finish 1 inch of the bumper ahead of the PC version, is gotta be the Lindberg version, OutRun 2 SP SDX. But honestly, play either version of the game, you really cannot go wrong. The only wrong way to play OutRun 2 or OutRun 2006 is to never play it. But short of that, we're across the finish line and the Lindberg version came ahead, at least for me. But leave me a comment down below, tell me what version you like, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye!